Hello freaks, I am doing a video about the quarter scale Batman based on The Dark Knight Rises by Hot Toys. This isn't really a review video, it's obviously not an unboxing video. I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts about the figure and give some suggestions on how to display him and futz with the figure in general. First thing I'm going to cover is the cape installation. You don't have to remove the neck in order to do this. The only reason I am is because I want to show you lifting up the chest armor. You can see that there's quite a gap here between the chest armor and the figure underneath. The reason you want that gap is because it'll allow the cape clips to slip in where they belong much easier. So lift up the chest armor. And you're going to take the cape. Nope, coffee's ready, hold on. Okay, better. Alright, so the cape clips look like this. You want to rotate it around this way so that the hooked part is pointing away from the tip of the cape. Alright? So just watch this very carefully. This is going to slide underneath the chest armor, and you can get it in very deep because we've lifted up the chest armor. And then it's just a matter of getting it hooked, this edge hooked underneath the chest armor, and give it a little push and it's in place. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And that's it. Once they're in place, the cape should lay flat. If they're not all the way in place, it will not lay flat. In fact, this one's not all the way in place right now. See how that's still standing up? We need to get that underneath the armor. So press a little harder, and there, now it's flat. And so now they're both lying flat to the armor, and it stays in place real well once you get it there. Okay, next, while I have the chest and shoulder armor lifted up, I want to show you how you can shim the shoulders. Basically what I have here is some rolled up electrical tape, and you can just easily slip that in place right there. And that's really all there is to shimming the shoulders. The idea behind shimming the shoulders, like I'm doing here, is that it can give a more natural slope to the shoulders. So you're going to use a hair dryer and heat this whole section up. Then you're going to press down on the shoulders, and this shim will force the edge of the shoulder armor closest to the neck. It'll force that to stay high while the rest of the shoulders comes down lower. I actually found that this really didn't need to stay in there after I did that modification. This figure is pretty much stock, but I did do what I just described. I heated this all up and pressed it down, and ever since then I don't think I need the shims. It seems that the angle of the shoulders is quite nice, so perhaps just heating it all up and pressing down would be enough without having the shims in place. But if you do want to shim the shoulders and kind of in the process shorten the appearance of the neck, that's how you do it. Next, let's address the issue of the ab straps showing. When you get it, out of the box, he looks pretty much like this, pretty unattractive if you ask me. So it's just a matter of lifting the shirt up and pushing the chest down. I'm not sure if people are just afraid of damaging the figure and they don't want to handle it rough, but it's really not hard to do. To just press it down in place. You know, you can see already that it's pretty much there. That's probably because it's used to being there on mine, because I really did struggle with it quite a bit at first to get it down to that position, but once you get it there, it seems to want to stay there. And earlier I mentioned heating this all up and pressing it down. That will help as well. It's going to kind of extend the whole chest area a little lower. So I really do encourage you to use a hairdryer and kind of heat this whole area up to kind of reposition it and futz it in place. I don't really even consider that to be a modification. It's more like you know, futzing that you would do with a fabric figure or fabric clothes on a figure, where you're going to use water to you know, get the wrinkles out of a figure, and then you use a hairdryer to dry it. You haven't really modified the figure in any way. You've just kind of adjusted the clothing. So that's essentially what you're doing here. You're going to heat this all up and kind of just reposition it, and you're going to get that chest armor to be down lower over those ab straps. Next, let's talk about the pants a little bit. When you first get the figure, the knee pads are kind of on the side of the knees, so when you bend the knees, the pad will be over here. So I've already done this on my figure, but basically what you're going to do is it's a lot of rotating the pants around the leg to try to just reposition it. It's a lot of little by little rotating, and you might find it helpful to remove the boot and getting the pants rotated, and just keep working it until you get the knee pad directly where you want it over the knee, so that when he bends it, it's right on the knee as opposed to off to the side. Takes patience, and you have to not have fear that you're going to damage the pants. You just saw me pull the boot off a minute ago. I should probably talk for a minute just about the boots. A lot of people are concerned about the height of this figure in comparison to Enterbay's quarter scale figures, and they want to be able to display them together. So people have suggested taking the boots off and then putting them back on without pushing them all the way in place. You can see what that looks like on his left leg. This one I've put back on all the way. This one I only put in part of the way, but you can see it's quite sturdy. That's because the ankle pegs on this figure are ribbed on the part that goes into the ankle. It's not going to slide down in place unless you want it to, so that's going to give him significantly more height on his, in this case, left leg. So if you're going to be displaying this with Enterbay, I recommend doing that. It seems to be a very effective futzing technique. Again, I'm not even going to call it a mod, because you are not altering the figure in any way, really. And if you want to push it back in place, you can. So there's back to stock. So the time has come for me to talk about my real issues with this figure. First up, the belly in the abdomen. If you just look at here, it looks okay, but as soon as you start coming down, it looks like the abs are sticking out. And I'm going to take the belt off to illustrate this a little better. Okay, so the belt is off, and you can see that right about here it starts to come in. So the problem isn't that it has too much of a belly. The real problem is that there's not enough material under the suit right here. So if I was going to fix this problem, what I would do is get under the suit and add material through this area. I just want to re-emphasize this point. When I feel the abdominal area, this feels all well padded up here, and then when I come down to here, there's like a void. There's a big void in here. This needs to be filled in with something so that it doesn't go in so much right here and make the appearance of the abdomen sticking out up here. The belt should be able to sit more vertically, and the only way to do that is to pad this area under the suit. I'm gonna just stick a little wad of electrical tape in there to illustrate what I mean. Okay, so right here, that's electrical tape. It's just a rolled up piece of electrical tape. So you can see that the belt is sitting more vertically now. So if I was going to keep this figure, I would have to find a way to fill that space in. And there's going to be two ways of doing it. Number one, you could actually get a seam ripper and come in here and undo the seam and try to fill this in through here. There, that's a nice view of how indented this is through here. This all needs to be pushed out. So yeah, you could either take a seam ripper and actually stuff cotton in there and then try to sew it back together. The other option, which is probably the better option, is to actually remove the suit, which is done the same way. If you've done it on the DX12, it would be the same method. Essentially, you're going to have to break the glue seal back here, right there. So you break this glue seal and remove the upper body armor. And my understanding is once you get underneath there, oh, in fact I can even see it. There's two zippers. There's a zipper right there and a zipper over here. So the zipper must go kind of along here. So you take the two zippers, pull them down, and you should be able to pull the suit down to his waist and do whatever you need to fill in that area. And he's going to get a nice flat stomach, and the belt's going to sit vertically. Man, I just hate the way that looks. Okay, so that's the one big issue I have. The other issue, and this is going to be the last thing I talk about, is the head to shoulder ratio. To me, the head looks too small and the shoulders look too wide. It's hard to say which is the real problem, but there's no easy way to make the shoulders smaller. I will say that the shape of the shoulder pads themselves and design is excellent, but he's just so broad across this area. And I think actually the real problem is there's too much distance from here to here. And the effect is that it makes his head look small. To my eye, you know, other people aren't going to see this, but it bothers me, and it bothers me enough that if I was going to keep it, I'd have to do something about it. I've tried heating up the shoulder pads and squeezing them to be smaller. Pretty much had no effect, and that's because the body underneath it has broad shoulders, and it is what it is. So the shoulders are stock right now. There's nothing I could do easily about the shoulders. So if I was going to keep the figure, I would have to strip off the clothes, get down to the body underneath, and actually use a Dremel to carve off some of the shoulder underneath here. And then hopefully when I put the shoulder pads back on and the clothes back on, then I could reshape the shoulder pads to be smaller. But I'm not going to do all that. You know, I'm not going to start destroying this figure, essentially. It's a great figure, and it's an expensive figure. So I'm going to give it to somebody else, sell it to somebody else who can appreciate it for what it is without being bothered by those two main issues that I mentioned. Alright, thanks for watching. That's all I have to say for now. And for those of you who love this figure, I'm happy for you.